Live from the pitch pad in New York City. Get ready to unleash your inner entrepreneur with Pitch Live with Amy Summers. Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or just dipping your toes into the Shark Tank, this is the place to be to discover how to turn your pitch into reality. Fasten your seatbelts, pitch stars, because the spotlight is on you and we are about to make success happen. On this episode of Pitch Live.
But I needed to prove that everyone wasn't waiting for me to come in and save something. Oftentimes, you are looked at as, okay, you have all the answers. Mentors shouldn't see themselves as saviors. Like, saviorism is not a productive lens from which to support or partner with someone else, because I'm still looking and energized by the learning process of what I don't know, as much as being able to share and impart on folks what I do know.
Get ready for Pitch Live in 3, 2, 1. Welcome to Pitch Live. I'm your host, Amy Summers, founder and president of Pitch Publicity and Xerox. I'm also a hard-working entrepreneur who is passionate about helping you reach success in any area of your life. And I know that's possible after decades of experience in perfecting the pitch and enhancing communication skills, which is why I'm here today and joined by Jermaine Myrie, who is someone whose work sits at the center of a conversation I care deeply about, making mentorship more accessible, more consistent, and more real in people's lives. As CEO of Mentor, Jermaine is leading the national charge to expand access to high-quality mentoring relationships. He brings a strong academic foundation with a degree in English and sociology from Morehouse College and a master's in education from Simmons University, shaping a leadership style that is people first, but always backed by strategy. Prior to Mentor, he served as Chief External Affairs Officer at uAspire, where he led organization-wide strategy across revenue, partnerships, and brand focus on improving economic mobility for students navigating barriers to higher education. Now at Mentor, which is a 4-star nonprofit organization rated by Charity Navigator, by the way, he is leading authority on quality mentoring, and Jermaine is also helping scale what mentorship can look like and who it can reach. So welcome, Jermaine. I'm so looking forward to this conversation and learning how you have made success happen, or as we call it here, MSH.
Well, good morning, Amy. Thank you for having me, and I'm excited about this conversation today.
So before we get into it, I am going to just throw you one curveball that was not in my prep materials for you. But this season, I'm doing a Behind the Bio series. And I just gave everyone your bio, and they can look you up and see who you are online. But I would really like you to share with our audience something that's not on your bio that people should just know about Jermaine.
Oh my goodness, that is a curveball. I will say that what's not on my bio is that baseball is my favorite sport. Since we talked about curveballs, I will go that. I am a avid baseball fan, and a sport that I enjoy a lot. I know in this day and age of everything being fast-paced, baseball is not the typical fast-paced thing, but I enjoy it. They've cut the games down to shorter than 3 hours, so it works.
I like that. That's a perfect story for the Pitch Live podcast. Curveballs and pitches, and I like baseball too. It is kind of calming, for fast-paced individuals like us. It kind of just calms you down a little bit.
Great way to get a tan in the outfield.
Yes. Well, so I want to talk to you about the organization you run. It's called Mentor. Do you ever feel like you're walking into rooms where people already think they understand what you do? And can you tell us exactly what you do at Mentor?
Oh, every day. There is, when we walk in or I walk in to have a conversation about our work here at Mentor, it's like, oh, yes, that thing. I listen to other people and I give them feedback or advice. And to your question, it's absolutely right. We here at Mentor, we do so much more. We're a capacity building organization, an intermediary. And so what that means is we basically are the engine behind the mentoring experiences that companies and organizations and schools that they look to as frameworks and systems to help better human relationships wherever they are. So we're a dynamic organization and do so much more than have coffee with folks and have conversations, if you will.
It does seem like everyone defaults to the, "Oh, let's go grab coffee, you're gonna be my mentor" mentality. I don't know why that's still around, but can you can you tell us some other, maybe misunderstood, ideas about mentorship that people have that maybe just aren't as relevant today?
Yeah. Well, first, you're not going to be an effective mentor if you just spend 15 minutes a quarter with someone over coffee. Secondly, you don't have to be of the same trajectory as someone else to be an effective mentor. Thirdly, everyone has the ability to be a mentor. In terms of uh, something to offer someone else. So we often get this idea of, I don't have enough time, or I'm not similarly situated as this individual. I don't understand them, or whatever it is. And I think the beauty of mentorship is that it allows space and opportunity for people to get to know each other and ultimately leads to caring and convicted relationships. And so those are some of the things that I think are often misconstrued about mentorship and how to engage that really are just objections that folks conjure up more so than real reasoning behind not participating in a mentoring relationship.
I'm really glad that you brought up that you don't have to be on the same trajectory as somebody else to mentor them, because when I was writing my book Lift, which is all about leading with a mentorship approach, I thought, well, I'm going to do a little research while I'm writing this book. And even though I didn't really have the bandwidth to do this, I was like, I need to, as a professional, apply to one of these mentorship programs. So not your nonprofit, it was somebody else's. They had a mentorship program. I thought, okay, I'm writing a book about mentorship. I've mentored dozens and dozens of students, and it was a student organization. And so I applied, and I did not get accepted. And the reason was because they said that my qualifications as a professional did not match any of the students that they had. And it was interesting, the feeling I had from that, because I felt very like rejected as a professional immediately. So I'm glad you bring that up, because I've always felt too, like, you don't have to be on the exact same career path as somebody else to be a mentor. Can you expand a little bit on that, on what true mentorship is? Because I do think some people get it confused that it's, oh, you have to be in the same profession, so you're going to give them all your contacts or something like that.
Yeah. No, this isn't kind of speed dating or hyper LinkedIn experience. I think we believe, and the things that we see that are effective is that, one, you show up with the ability to care for another human, right? And that you're interested in the human experience and the journey there. Two, that you're willing and able to offer a kind of a high quality experience. And by that meaning there's a level of intentionality, there's active listening, there's engagement, there's curiosity, and there's not a sense of just complete saviorism, right? That you're going to save someone's professional career or their personal journeys and that sort of thing. I think the beauty of being almost disparate in some way, or of a different dynamic, is that it becomes a learning experience. It doesn't feel as if the other person just knows every single answer to the question. That's not what mentorship really ultimately is about. It's really two people or a group of individuals on a journey of learning and understanding and listening and caring. And so, yes, if you are a high functioning professional that is about, creating opportunity and quality for people to expand their business potential, and someone wants to be an educator, let's say that. I think there is a dynamic there. Like, how do you talk in front of an audience? How do you get students motivated? How might I, as the professional, learn to grow in my empathy? There's so many opportunities for access when folks aren't equally aligned. That creates that powerful dynamic of growth.
The word mentorship, and I ran into this when I was writing my book because I was really struggling with it because I feel like everybody has, like, they have an immediate idea of what it is. Um, you obviously are running an organization called Mentor. Do you run into that ever where you feel like you're immediately misunderstood just because of the name?
It is. I think going back to your initial question around, folks believing that they know automatically what I do or what we do for that matter, mentorship is equally situated. I often, as a former educator, I think about the fact that even teachers run into this issue. Like, oh, you teach. Oh, great. You get up, you write on the board, and that's what you do, right? And for those of us that have been in classrooms before, we roll our eyes, like literally and figuratively. Like, no, you have no idea how to kind of manage structure and create, infuse creativity and that sort of thing. We face that same challenge here at Mentor when folks automatically believe, well, you're here to pair us up. You're kind of like a matching organization, right? You're looking to your experience with qualifications and who you align with. But no, we're looking beyond that, and we're creating frameworks that are solving for gaps in how people connect, what makes them relatable, but also what makes them flourish in their conversations, in their interaction that can last a lifetime. And so that's what we bring to have people better understand that mentoring is to an end and it's not just a means by itself as a kind of a matchmaking experience.
I like that. Yes, you're not a matchmaking service.
Yes, we're not whatever it's called these days.
If you had to, replace that word mentorship, like, if you had to just rip it out of the vocabulary and replace it with another word, what word would best explain what it is that you do?
Caring relationships. We create infrastructure and systems that allows caring relationships to build, to grow, uh, and to allow people to be their better selves.
Jermaine, we are so tracking. The last chapter of my book is mentorship is relationship. So I'm so glad you said that. That was, like, my most nervous question for this whole interview. I'm like, I hope my book is right. Yeah, I agree with you. It's all about the relationship. If somebody says, "I don't have a mentor," which I have heard a lot in a lot of these interviews I've done, and part of my research for the book, I'll ask people, "Who is your mentor? Do you have a mentor?" And you always come across people that say, "I don't have a mentor." When someone says that, what do you think that they're really saying?
Well, for me, I think it might be the case that they're not thinking of that caring individual that is non-judgmental in their lives. That mentorship shows up everywhere. If you think of your favorite author, in some ways they are your de facto mentor. Like some folks just, and maybe if I'm someone of a certain age that believes in bookstores and kind of thumbing through books and sort of thing. But nothing wrong with a good Kindle as well. But I think what they're probably getting at is who's that individual, and maybe it's someone outside of their immediate home. But yes, a parent, a guardian, an uncle or aunt, a coach, all of those folks are available people who, if you reflect on their meaning to your life, the decision making that you go through, or even the guilt you might feel if they don't approve of something you're going to do. In some ways, those things feed back into folks that are those caring adults. That is the foundation of a mentoring experience. And so I think one needs to just simply might need to reflect simply on who's that person I get inspired by or I feel fully engaged and quote unquote seen by. And I think
Mhm.
they would quickly realize they have mentors in their lives.
I agree, and I even talked about that as well in my book, just that you have to open your eyes to it and look around. And I think that because we don't put labels on everybody either, they may not even have that label as mentor, but there's so many people in your life, or it could even be someone that doesn't even know you. I mean, you could be being mentored by a podcast that you listen to, or like you said, a book that you're reading. I mean, there's so many resources for, I feel like, mentorship if you just open your eyes to it. Um, Now, when you, I mean, you're a nonprofit organization.
Mhm.
You obviously have to raise money for what the work that you're doing. Is there um is there like a certain line or angle that you consistently leads to buy-in when you're trying to, I don't know if you will, sell mentorship to somebody? Like, is there something that really gets to people that you're, if I tell this story or if I lead in with this, I'm going to get their attention. What is it?
Yeah. Storytelling is the key ingredient of any good pitch or any good fundraising effort, right? As you ask that question, I reflect on the first uh, few weeks on this job. I traveled to one of our affiliate organizations, and I met a young lady. And for the purpose of this conversation, I'll call her Mary. Mary, in the seventh grade, had made a suicide pact with four of her other classmates. And on her way home from school on the day that they were going to execute the suicide pact, Mary stopped in one of our programs in this particular town that she lives in. And it was a program centered on music. And she walked in and she felt compelled because she too loved music, and voice in particular. And in that interaction, the program director saw her and saw something in her in that moment that felt like there was something in her demeanor that just compelled him. And Mary got connected that same evening with this particular mentoring program that we support. And needless to say, Mary, and sharing this story, connected with our organization and connected with the purpose. And we, in turn, saw her for her full purpose. Unfortunately, the other folks in the suicide pact completed on that unfortunate cycle. And Mary is still with us here today. And I often connect with her periodically throughout the years, just to check in and see how she's doing. And I share that story because it's a story of both the power of seeing people, being available to them, and what our organization is able to do and support across this country, which is connecting, again, caring adults with young people and having spaces and mindsets, what we call a mentoring mindset, to see people. So the way in which I diffuse kind of that myth of like who we are, what the power of mentoring is to say that it both saves lives and it connects people. And I think that equation is what we lead with when we try to help people better understand why supporting mentoring organizations, supporting us at Mentor is a powerful thing, because it literally saves lives and it literally translates to the creation of a relationship generation, if you will.
That's an incredible story. I don't know anybody that wouldn't like write a, well, I don't think people write checks anymore, but maybe nobody that would wire you money after that story. That's
Yeah.
amazing. But is there in your time at Mentor, you've been there a few years now, is there an audience that you would say is kind of a tougher audience to pitch on Mentor? Who is it?
Yeah. I- It, the toughest audience right now is probably some of our friends in the corporate sector. Um, our corporate sector partners are evolving in how they view
Mhm.
relationships, because we are in an environment where there are a couple of different competing events, right? Which is the lessening the kind of the artificial intelligence growth, the AI growth, and really trying to navigate how human-centered relationships really continue to drive business priorities. So I think that is an audience where in a relationship centered business model is that we have, and the power of relationships, really making the case, especially where early career roles are being kind of minimized and technology is really taken on. So that environment views mentorship as one where you're trying to bring along junior career folks. And so it's meeting those business priorities today is probably one of the greater challenges that we have right now, that tension point between still needing to invest in human centeredness and the drive it of connections of people with, oh, by the way, we're using technology to replace those type of roles that seemingly would need greater mentorship or managerial support.
Yeah, we're just going to skip that and let them manage people now, which they've never been managed, basically, right?
Exactly. Let
I'm
me
waiting for it to hit the ceiling, right, Jermaine? It's going to hit the ceiling immediately. Like it'll be a wake up call eventually, right? Like they'll get it.
exactly, osmosis.
Yes, I mean, I agree with you. I would think that all the technology and the AI would create a bigger demand for your organization for all the reasons you just said, because we are definitely losing that human touch. I mean, everything from the interview process at companies, they have to get by 2 rounds in some companies of AI interviews before they ever interview with a person. This is what I'm hearing from students now, which is astonishing to me because the students I'm speaking to, they're just trying to figure out the puzzle. So it's like a puzzle to get past the AI interviewer. And it makes me wonder, who is the company? Like, how do they even know who they're hiring? Because the person just played the game to get through it, but that's not who they really are.
Yeah.
And they're going to be whoever they really are when they start working at the company. I think eventually we're going to have I don't know, this is going to implode at some point. I don't know where, but
Yeah. Well, I think, to your background, right? I think there's even a premium on communication skills. And I think to be an effective mentor, you have to communicate well, and to be an effective mentee as well. I think folks can only mentor you to the point where they understand what it is that you're trying to solve for in your own professional or personal journey. So you're right. There is this game that's being played, and no one is really. Every folks are not speaking per se the same language, if you will, literally and figuratively.
have you, with all this technology and AI and with companies focused on that, oh, we're automating this or we're doing this differently or we don't need mentorship because we've eliminated those jobs. How have you had to reframe your pitch, if you will, on why you're needed? Can you give us a little bit of your pitch just so that we could hear what your current pitch is on Mentor and why to a company? Like, why would they need to care about this?
Well, there are a number of reasons why, but one thing that I will share is that one of the pitch frameworks that we use is companies are integrating because of downsizing and kind of redundancies. There's a lot of mergers and acquisitions taking place. As folks are seeing the need to integrate other talent into their systems and into their culture, mentorship is a great way to do that. It is a direct pathway by which one organization can start to layer human-centered frameworks to integrate another organization into their platform and their culture, because culture really drives business outcomes. And so if you're looking for a strong business culture, having a strong mentorship program is a way to ensure alignment across your culture.
And how do you work with companies? So, say a corporation wants to partner with Mentor. Can you give us some specifics around exactly what your organization would do for them?
So a couple of things that we can do that we do for organizations. One is we help to facilitate and build a framework by which they are able to establish a career pathway for or junior employees through the entire organization. We build technologies that allows them to have learning modules where their employees can understand the culture of, as I just talked about, of the organization, enhance their volunteerism. Community-based programming is another pathway that we have worked with organizations around. Recruitment of talent. Organs as the talent, the students that you're dealing with, they're looking at organizations that have a value center. And many of those organizations that do that are ones that are connected to or have built out mentorship programming. And it's a retention model, a business priority that we've also tapped into as well. As organizations are looking to retain said talent, they need to ensure that they are building the right types of frameworks that allows their employees to make connections across the organization as they make their kind of their rounds, if you will. And so we've built frameworks and systems, or do continue to, for companies in all of those ways. And so we touch corporations in a multifaceted, scaffolded way to meet their business priorities.
And so it used to be that we didn't have all these mentorship programs and frameworks, but we have a lot of them now. I mean, I even had one executive tell me that he has a team that he leads, but at his company, he also has he's a mentor to a different group, but he doesn't mix the two. And it seems very structured in a way. For me as an entrepreneur, I can't think like that. Like, I mentor everybody. Like, he read my book. He's like, you mentor everybody you work with. I'm like, I know. He's like, we don't do that here. We like mentor these people and we lead these people. To me, that seems very structured, but why do companies need this? Or do you advocate a different path for big corporate companies with a lot of people in their office?
Yeah.
Why do we need the programs?
So we need the programs because we know that engaged and connected people are more enthused employees. It grows their professional commitment and value to their organizations. I think there is no the work-life balance construct is one that's interesting because work is a part of your life. And so if you are enjoying and have positive relationships in the workplace where you feel like someone is truly cares about you and your pathway, you are more of an invested employee. You're more likely to be there. So you need these programming if you want engaged and invested employees and talent to further drive innovation in your company. So mentorship drives innovation. It allows the active dialogue between kind of constant frameworks with new ideas or reframed ideas. And so I simply say, if you're continuing to push the innovation envelope, you need engaged employees, and mentorship and mentoring programs allows you to see and hear the best of ideas because they're not always structured. It's not the whiteboard session, but it's the coffee session. It's the kind of lunchroom session. And as more and more of these organizations are building these edifices of buildings that has gyms and restaurants, and these ideas are manifesting themselves in these spaces. And these are the spaces that people are connecting with colleagues and other members that they are truly invested in trust and relationships with. And so mentorship programs allows you to do that.
We need more of those casual environments that don't have screens, that aren't separating us from like having just an idea and popping in, or that type of thing, that we're so restricted now with all the screens and the hybrid and the remote. Um, this is a question I wanted to ask you because I get this from students a lot. And I'm sure mentorship is in this bucket, as is DEI and other things. But a lot of times when somebody's going through the interview process, a company is selling themselves, and they might say, we have all these programs and we're going to help you in your career. It's part of what they're selling. It's not always what happens at a company, but how can you tell in an interview process, or how could you guide somebody to like ask the right questions? And then how do you know when mentorship is not happening, even if everyone thinks it is? Like, they're given a good line, but maybe it's not really happening in that company.
Yeah. Asking the right questions, if as you're framing this, is really trying to figure out if this company is going to be invested in me. Do they invest in their talent? Is to ask whether or not, or how it is that growth takes place in their organization. If growth is a function of number of hours behind a screen, then probably there isn't enough kind of opportunity to see and understand, each other. That's just kind of meetings to meetings to meetings. So you can talk about, the typical day, or what types of ERGs does your organization have. You can lean into some of those aspects, and to figure out if mentorship is or is not taking place, I think is a function of usually trying to have conversations with folks who are not in the interview room with you. So asking, folks always say, do you have any questions? A curious thing I often find is like, yeah, I have a few questions, but it isn't for this particular audience. I'd love to connect with and do your due diligence on an org chart and say, okay, I'd love to connect with someone in my role that has just joined your organization in the last 6 months. And sometimes the interviewer will be like, wow, I've probably never heard that before, right? Like, because everyone in that room is trying to your point, sell the company or vet you out, right? But you want to really engage with the person who has just gotten a 6, 9, or 12-month start on your job or some job that you're interested in achieving and seeing how that person. So I think those are a few ways that I would advise someone to really, if you will, kick the tires on the relationship building aspect of an organization.
Yeah, I like that. I think it'll throw them. They'll probably have to look in the rule book and see if that's allowed or not.
And
But,
yeah,
it's the same advice I give to people when they're hiring a PR firm or agency or anything. I always say, like, whoever you're talking to is either the founder of the company who's selling you on something or a salesperson. But you always want to ask, can I speak to the person I'm going to be working with on a day to day basis? So, in a way, what you're saying to do in the interview process is pretty much the same thing. I'd like to speak to one of my peers that's already potentially going to be on my team instead of just talk to the potential manager, right?
yeah. I mean, I think we have our own, agency for folks that are going through the interview process is not to simply use it once you're in the company, but use it before you have agency, right? And I think you have the opportunity to do your own reference check. I think you're inverting the paradigm of, what is my ability to reference check you and the things that you are saying that you value and believe in, and does it really play out? And so just selecting the right group of people to try to connect with to see if they had the opportunity to grow in the way in which the company says that you will have the opportunity to grow.
All right, let's flip this a little bit because that's from the employee perspective. What are maybe some leaders are unintentionally falling short when it comes to developing people, or as we call it, mentoring them or building those relationships? And I think it has largely to do with technology. Technology just makes everything easy and convenient. So, what would you say to leaders out there that are running teams or running a company? Where are they falling short in developing people?
Well, there are a couple of different places. One is that you believe that you have your finger on the pulse of it all, and you don't. I think managing and leading is a challenging endeavor. You have a set of skill sets that have lent themselves to your success. That uh, there are variables out there where other folks don't have those same skill sets or opportunity, for that matter. So being having a very myopic viewpoint of what good work looks like is really allowing you to fall short. um, I also believe that not creating enough informal space for conversation and connection
Mm.
is also a place in which I see leaders falling short. Listen, I just recently gave our entire organization a book that we purchased a particular book that I was reading in my travels, and I thought, this is something I'd love for us to just have conversations across the organization around, just this idea that's in this book. And I received an email from a colleague that is a couple levels down from my office, and it was like, and they sent me a 5-paragraph message about what they got out of the book, and the last paragraph was like, so why did you choose this book for us? What resonated with you? And it was in a very like, here's what my takeaways were. What are yours, right? So I'm starting this conversation to kind of bring elasticity into the organization so that I could connect with and see and hear the viewpoints of different people. And as leaders, sometimes the rigidity of having to meet the deadline, having to make the deal, having to make the pitch, um, sometimes moves you so far away from what is actually happening inside the organization that your goals and the organization's goals start to kind of veer apart.
I like that. That's well said. Um, okay. Well, when you stepped into the CEO role at Mentor, what did you know you needed to prove to yourself and not anyone else?
Mhm. I needed to. I actually just was thinking about this in a different conversation. I needed to prove that I had the patience to learn what I did not know about mentoring, and not simply hit the ground running with a bunch of kind of business structures.
Mhm.
So I needed to prove that I could almost, I want to say, ride the wave for a year, kind of like that whole thing of, yes, things need to happen and the business needs to be like supercharged, if you will. But I needed to prove that I can sit back and learn, and that everyone wasn't waiting for me to come in and save something. Right? Is sometimes when you get to this particular role, oftentimes you are looked at as, okay, you have all the answers.
The
And
savior.
we, yeah, and we don't. Just as much as we talk about mentors, and I said this earlier in our conversation, like mentors aren't shouldn't see themselves as saviors. Like saviorism is not a, productive lens from which to support or partner with someone else. Equally, as a CEO, if you view yourself as a savior in that way, you're going to miss a whole lot of learning opportunities. Because we too are on, or I believe I'll speak for myself, but I'm on a growth trajectory. I'm on a growth journey, because I'm still looking and energized by the learning process of what I don't know, as much as being able to share and impart on folks what I do know.
I'm curious why you were on your listening tour, if you will, in that first year or so. What did you learn about mentoring or mentorship that surprised you?
Actually, the same thing that many folks believe that it is, that it's, that there is really a heartbeat to mentoring. There is a structure, a framework that makes it effective, that makes it efficient, and that it's not simply the, as I said earlier, not just a coffee shop meetup. Because I too felt in some ways that, oh yeah, I have a lot of really great conversations with friends, and they lay bare their woes, and here I am to help them navigate that, and I just offered some level of mentorship. No, I just was a friend, or a listening ear. But what I learned about our organization, we have over close to 200 products and services that our organization has developed over 35 years. That's a lot of information, and it's research based. So we've done an exorbitant amount of research on what makes mentoring an effective practice to achieve a number of goals. And so I learned that in my process that, hey, new guy, you can't just show up believing that, 15-minute conversations is what we do. That's not who we are, what we do. And that mentorship happens everywhere, but that our organization, mentor makes it stronger. And that's what I learned in my time. And I'm still on my listening tour, by the way. Just in case
Okay.
my colleagues are listening to this, I haven't putting anyone out. I'm still
Jermaine is still listening to you.
listening to
I like
you.
that. I like that you say that and that there's a science and almost a strategy to the mentorship that can make it a better experience for somebody. As we wrap up, and speaking of listening, if someone is listening right now and feels like they're just waiting for mentorship to find them or happen to them, or someone's going to like save them and be like, I'll be your mentor. What would you say to them that you would want them to start doing differently starting tomorrow?
Yeah. Well, the first thing is I would say start inward and work outward. Like I would say list and name the things that you have to offer, to someone, and identify who you'd like that someone to be. Um, so start there. How do you want to, what do you believe you have to offer, and who are the folks that you may want to offer that to be? Secondly, I think you kind of do a T square of like, who are the folks that have done that for you? Um, and within that kind of activity lens, there's so many wonderful organizations across this country that are doing magnificent work. Um, I mean, yes, we are doing great work here at Mentor, not least of which, right? So you can go to our website, and on our website we have a mentor connector is what we call it, this product that you can go in, type in your zip code, and you can see a number of organizations in your area and locale that are looking for mentors, or you may be looking for to be, a mentee of some sort, and you can see a list of organizations in that way. But I think the first thing is to just do some reflective practice on what it is you're trying to achieve or solve for, and how you're trying to get involved. And as I said earlier, everyone has something to offer, and from a place of care. Now, there are great mentors and there are not so great mentors, right? And so you want to, obviously, I'm assuming your listeners are folks in that bucket of wanting to be great mentors. And so you can go to our website at mentoring.org. I'll look at our mentor connector. It can sift through your zip code and hyperlocate some opportunities for you in that way. But more consistently, you can simply do some reflection on what it is you want to get out of mentoring or offer a mentor, a mentee.
I love that. This is a perfect way to end.
Yeah.
Reflect. And Jermaine, thank you so much for joining us today. I know that you have inspired so many people in your career journey, and you're going to continue to do so as you continue on your listening tour, your listening and doing tour. And I want to encourage everyone to share this episode so we can get more people exposed to the inspiring work that Jermaine is doing through his organization Mentor. And also be sure to get involved at mentoring.org. Thank you again for joining us, Jermaine.
Thank you, Amy. It was great fun talking with you. And I know your students are getting a tremendous amount of your mentorship as well. So thank you for being an advocate. And I love your book. And I think what you have written is a good guidepost for folks who are interested in this connection between mentorship and pitching and business.
Thank you so much. And thank you for joining us on this episode of Pitch Live with Amy Summers. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and give us a rating or review. Your feedback helps us plan future episodes. I hope you were inspired today to get out there and to advocate for yourself. Like Jermaine says, go ask that person at the next interview that you want to go speak to someone you're going to be working with on your team. As a bonus, join us at eNisivox.com, where you can get motivated, hone your communication skills, and binge as much mentorship as you want whenever you need it. The link's going to be in the show notes, along with all my social media handles and all the ways to connect with Jermaine at Mentor. So let's stay connected and follow each other in success. Until next time, MSH, Jermaine.
All righty.